On the road to MotoGP, this is FAB-Racing.
Time for the Moto team. It is the bike of Darren Anderson that starts on the pole. The bike of Warren GUANTARIO starts alongside him in P2. And again, important, there's two different classes. So you've got the open class, which is essentially whatever you want, and then you've got the probably more GP style bikes. You can see that they're all in the open class, and then you've got the street stock class, the 125 street stock class. They look more like pit bikes. It's pretty much that. I believe we will be having a formation lap because I've not heard otherwise from race control, so we're just all waiting really, and unless the lights come on, and I'll tell you if they do. But we'll get to it. So yeah, if we're going racing, then the marshal on the grid will point up to the lights. So Lee Clow's there on the grid, she'll point up to the lights. If that happens, that means we're going racing. Otherwise, got formation up. The 96 there of Will Howarth getting a bit smoky. He made a feature in the final Moto team race of last season, and actually he did put in a decent display. I'll give it that to Will Howarth. Again, it's a bit of a jump from a Minimoto onto a GP style bike, and he still did very, very well for himself to have given that. Let's see, are we going to go on a formation lap? Let's find out. Haven't heard otherwise, so I'll assume we are. No, we're not. So we're going. No, yeah, we are. Okay, that's a lie. I thought that was a point. That was a way. So we're going out on the formation up. Let's go through the grid, shall we? The bike of Darren Anderson starts from the pole position. Warren GUANTARIO goes across from alongside him. Then it's the 96 of Will Howarth in P3 with Keith Bolton in P4. Ian Jackson is in P5 and the 27 with Jay King on that number 1, the champion's number, in P6. Then it's Jack Andrews on the 14 in P7. Phil MAPPLEBECK on the 19 in P8. It's the 333 of Scott JEWITT in P11, I believe that is. And then Lynton MEOLA is in P12 in the 4-1. Then Phillip, Joyce, Ryan Button, Vince Bailey, Charlie EMMS and Elliot Newton rounding out the grid. But of course, those are the names of the people who own the bikes, might not necessarily be the people on the bikes. So do bear that in mind. It's a bit confusing, but again, a nice little championship. There's 2 classes in one. Last season, there wasn't really a lot of entries last season. It got to the point where they actually threw some of these guys on with the Extreme 200. So you have the Extreme 200s going around, then at the back you have the Moto team bikes going around, and then you'd have the split between the opens and the standards as well. And this track, it seems to be pretty even between those two, and it's love to see a nice and healthy grid as well. And as well, we've also got Ian Baker, Madison, MARTLEW and Iona Glover who've just popped up my live timing. So we've got even more riders on the grid, which is great to see. So, a very, very packed grid of, lots of different types of bikes as you get here in the Moto team class. And of course, the final race of the day as we wait for the red lights. Lights on. Lights off, and we're underway for the final race of the day. It's a great start from GUANTARIO, but who's that sliding up the inside? I think it may have been Ian Jackson, maybe, who got away really, really well and took the lead. I can't quite tell. No, it's not. Maybe I can't actually quite tell who that is. I can't read the number. But as we get on the way, leading the way is that red bike, and coming around there goes Will Howarth, having a look to the inside, unable to quite make the move. And it's apparently Darren Anderson who's now in the lead. So maybe a transponder problem there for Darren Anderson, but Darren Anderson looks like he's in the lead of the race at the moment, so who really knows what's going on. But it's Darren Anderson from Will Howarth in P2.
Yeah, it seems that it is. Although this is the last race of the day, it seems that it's going to be as much action as we've had all day. Of course, yeah, it seems to be Darren Anderson on the 133 bike, just having a slight transponder issue, as Will Howarth sets the fastest lap on that first lap of a 48.332. Oh! Darren Anderson goes down.
So Darren Anderson wasn't in the lead of the race on the timing screen. He's not in the lead of the race on the racetrack anymore either. Goes down, coming into the chicane. Back end stepped out, as we've been seeing so often, and that bike doesn't look to be in the best state, and he's not too happy with it either. Wheeling it off, that looks to be his day done, as Will Howarth takes the lead of the race. Oh, Darren Anderson, we've been seeing a lot of that today. A lot of riders, I'm not sure if it's just a cold track surface, but a lot of riders just rear end stepping out, coming into corners and going down. And we've been seeing that, we've been seeing it in pit bikes, we've been seeing it in this, we've been seeing it in the mini GP classes. I mean, I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but it seems to be a bit of an epidemic here.
Yeah, it certainly does. It also seems like there's few front end moments coming in with these bikes, just so that potentially as well with the winds that we have here today. Although it looks great on the broadcast cameras, here at the circuit, the wind still is a factor to consider with these bikes.
Yeah, it is very, very windy. It's also pretty chilly out there as the sun gets low in the evening. The track's only getting colder as well. It's, I think it was a maximum of about 9 degrees today. Really wasn't that warm. I mean, warmer than yesterday, don't get me wrong, but it's not the most ideal conditions of racing, despite the fact that it does look very nice out on the broadcast. There we see some of the open bikes giving it a go. It's currently it's HOWARTH from GUANTARIO. HOWARTH in the open, GUANTARIO's in the standard, despite the fact that the GP style bikes currently dominating. They're actually, a lot of them are all in different classes, so I'm not sure if they actually give medals for like overall winners. I'm not actually too sure. I need to double check on that one. They may very well give overall medals and then medals for each of the classes. I'm not entirely sure, so HOWARTH could be on for 2 gold medals right now. Who really knows? But it is HOWARTH from GUANTARIO, from Keith Bolton, and that number 8 machine in P3. Yeah, it seems to very much be that the GP style bikes are dominating right now.
Yeah, it does, but first and second place, not to be mistaken, is 2 different classes. First place is the open class, which is a lot more free. You can do what you want. You can use 50cc engines. The standard class is a lot more to the road bike. You cannot make as much modifications to the engine, etc. And it produces close racing still, even though it's 2 classes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, these 2 classes, they seem to be very, very close here at Lydd. Something I'm not very used to. And there we see, side by side, chopping through. I'm not sure if that was a back marker that people have to fight their way around. But chopping their way through. That was very, very close indeed. They're all making their way through in some way, shape or form. It's whatever works, I suppose, but it's a bit of a gut-wrenching moment for me here in the commentary box. Anyway, I thought they were going to come together. It looked very, very close. 8 laps to go here in the MotoTeam, and 8 laps to go here on the Saturday for the first round of the FAB-Racing British Minibike Championship. Of course, returning for the 2022 season here at the Lydd kart circuit in the southeast of England and Kent, right on the coastline as well. So it's very, very humid, lots of that cool sea air blowing over the track. So it's interesting weather, we'll say that much. See that's Will HOWARTH keeping GUANTARIO at bay down the back end of the circuit. And it seems at the moment really these 2 guys are very happy just to kind of bring their bikes home as they are. Maybe just bring them into the last few laps, just keep at it. No need to push each other, make mistakes, cause accidents. Let's just get into the last few laps and kind of just have a good time.
Yeah, they certainly are. As we come across the line, we just get to see the latest lap times. Will HOWARTH was 2/10 faster than Warren that time round, and Will HOWARTH, of course, being on the distinctly coloured motorcycle that is a pearlescently brown bronze colour that is very easy to point out on track. Will HOWARTH having the fastest lap of the race, with 46 dead. Will HOWARTH, of course, leading the Moto Open class, with the second Moto Open class being Keith Bolton in 3rd place, and then you have to go down to 6th place with Lynton. While on the other hand, the MotoTeam standard class, Warren leads that with Jamie King in 4th and 2nd place in that class, closely followed by Ian Jackson, who's 5th overall and 3rd in the standard class.
Exactly, but I think Jamie King as well might have just overtaken Keith Bolton potentially. I think that might have been, maybe, no it wasn't, I'm not sure. Yeah it was. So Jamie King overtakes Keith Bolton for 3rd overall, but they still maintain their positions in their classes. So just to run through that again, Will HOWARTH is leading MotoTeam Open, Keith Bolton in 2nd, and Lynton MEOLA is 3rd. But then it's Warren GUANTARIO, Jamie King and Ian Jackson, your top 3 in MotoTeam standard. Then overall it's now Will HOWARTH, Warren GUANTARIO and Jamie King. Try not to get too confused. There's only 2 more races of this tomorrow anyway. But yeah, it's a fun little class. It is a bit mathematical to wrap your head around. There's a lot going on in terms of who's where, who's on what, who's doing what. But it is a nice class, and again, it's another championship which sees the older riders get involved. It's you do often, because it's about the bike and it's about the team. It's called MotoTeam for a reason. It's why guys like Jamie King are, you know, more than happy to lend their bike out to, you know, Minimoto riders, pit bar riders, riders who wouldn't normally be seen on these types of bikes. And you know, it creates, you know, very interesting racing because you get these guys well outside of their comfort zone, you know, doing something they're not used to be doing, you know, on a bike that's very, very capable. And you're having to be like, yeah, by the way, I'm challenging for the championship and I'd quite like to be that at the end of this weekend. So can you not destroy my bike? Can you maybe get some good results? You know, have a good time while you're at it.
Yeah, as you said, it's great to see the older riders getting involved in this championship, because not only can they make it into a family weekend, you know, the kids can race, the adults can race, but they can also pass on their advice and their experience on to the younger competitors and the rookies of this championship. As we see Warren in second place getting the fastest lap of the race with 45.8. We see someone off, 2 people off in fact. So wait and see who that is.
Can't quite make out who that is, unfortunately. I believe is the 2-3-1 even of Charlie Ems that's gone down, and yeah, someone else off. That's the 23 of Elliot Newton. So Ems and Newton, 2 of our sidecar enthusiasts that we have on the sidecar grid, also finding trouble in the Moto team. 3 laps to go here in the final race of today. And of course, don't go anywhere after this one. We've got some demo runs with BSB rider Brad Ray on his Supermoto, and then of course tomorrow we'll be back in the same places. A little bit earlier as well, we've got your race 2s and 3s to look forward to. So of course, plenty more Fab action to be bringing you across the weekend, but it is still Will Howarth who is leading this way with 2 laps to go. GUANTARIO is still maintaining that close gap, and now maybe he's thinking, okay, let's not bring it to the end now, let's have a bit of a race on our hands. Yes, I'm leading my class, I can smell an overall victory here.
Yeah, I definitely think GUANTARIO has just sat there just to see where he's faster than Howarth, and he's played it so smart, and now his final lap he's going to pull the pin and try to make a pass on where he knows he's faster. We just have to watch his body language to see where he's wanting to make this move and how he positions himself onto the track. As you see him go around the quick chicane, power out of there, then to a fast flowing right-hander with Will Howard passing the back marker, not getting in the way too much. Will is getting away in GUANTARIO, no it doesn't, but the gap has certainly widened.
The gap's too big.
Yeah, I do not think GUANTARIO can catch up unless if something happens to Will Howarth. But we're on the final lap of the race as we wait for Will Howarth to go around the final turn of this race. The checker flag is waving, and Will Howarth wins the race with GUANTARIO just behind. Will Howarth also sets the fastest lap of the race with 45.6.
And well, great end there for Will Howarth. Of course, if you're a GUANTARIO fan, don't be disappointed because he still takes the victory in the Moto team standard class. Jamie King will come home on that number 1 bike to take the Moto team standard P2, P3 overall as well. So there we have it, the final race of the day. Will Howarth takes the victory, takes the overall victory as well. GUANTARIO second, King third. There's Bolton, Jackson, MAPPLEBECK, MEOLA, JOYCE, JEWITT and Button, your top 10. And of course, Will Howarth, yeah, there's your Moto team top kind of 5. It's Will Howarth, Keith Bolton even, Lynton, MEOLA, Phillip, JOYCE, and then you have to go to Elliot Newton, who are actually outside the top 10 for your top 5. Oh no, I missed out Phil MAPPLEBECK, I do apologise. It's Howarth from Bolton, from MAPPLEBECK, from MEOLA, from JOYCE is your top 5. And then in Moto team standard, it's GUANTARIO, Jay King, Ian Jackson, and then it's Scott Jewett and Ryan Button is your top. So it's a 5-5 split in the top 10. So, you know, nice way to end the race, and good to see them as well, actually so close, because normally you do kind of get the domination of the standard class. So it's good to see the open guys not only getting an overall win, but, you know, being, you know, pretty well in there with the standard guys. Will Howarth did take the win yesterday on that number 96 bike. Very different to his normal riding standard, but that's what MotoTeam was all about. Some problems there.
There's Elliot.
Yeah,
that's not made the warm-up laps.
Elliot Newton having some problems there.
I think he had an off yesterday's race as well.
Yeah,
didn't he?
I believe he did. He managed to finish in P12 in race 1 yesterday, but he did have an off, and he's obviously having problems getting going. So it looks like we're going to get going without Elliot Newton, unfortunately, and we'll be pointing to the lights. That's the universal signal for get ready to go, just as we get ready for the final race
This should be good.
of the day. And yes, it absolutely will be good. I can guarantee you, Marshall, just waiting for the final confirmation from race control that we can get going. Obviously, with that Elliot Newton bike, we're not entirely sure, but we should be going in a minute's notice. Anyway, there we go. Points to the lights. Start procedure. You know how it works. Red lights on. Lights off, we're underway here for the Moto Team Race 2. Great start from Darren Anderson on the 133. Warren GUANTARIO as well, away pretty well on that number 55. But all action station there is Will Howarth as well. Actually, it's Will Howarth who's moved up into P2 there. So Warren GUANTARIO struggling a bit away from the line. So Will Howarth, the race winner from yesterday. And Will Howarth having a look to the inside, poking a wheel, but unable to make a move. But already letting Darren Anderson know that he's there and ready to have a fight. There is Jay King's bike with Sean on it.
He's lost a few places off the grid, so he's got some making up to do here.
Already being the criticising team boss. I mean, again, whoever, if he wins this one, he's on for race 3.
He's got a good start, so he's got all to do at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But that number 1 bike, of course, the Jamie King bike, won the championship last season. So a bit of work to do there for Sean if he wants to be on for race 3. But I'm sure there's still plenty of time left. Finishing lap 1, Will Howarth leading. Warren GUANTARIO is in second now with Keith Bolton third, and Darren.
Darren's looking to make up for yesterday's mistake, Darren. So if he's trying to stay on the bike.
Yeah, it looks like Will Howarth having a few. I believe he might be having a transponder issue because he's not showing up on our times.
Well, he does race in 2 classes, so hopefully he's swapped his transponder over from his Minimoto to his big bike.
Maybe he's forgotten to put it in. But that is Will Howarth currently running in P2 on the track. But on our time screen it says that Warren GUANTARIO is just behind him, is running P2. No, it does say he's on there. It says Darren Anderson's not on there. That's what I'm getting confused. Darren Anderson's having a transponder issue.
He also has 2 classes because he raced in the 140, so he may have forgotten as well.
So it's very confusing. So we're saying that Will Howarth is leading. Will Howarth is second. It's Darren Anderson, who's supposedly in 14th at the moment.
It looks like Phil Joyce has pulled over to the side. I can see
it looks like
the yellow flag.
Phil Joyce might be having problems out there. Some yellow flags waving.
So close. Every lap he's looking at that move.
Yeah, thinking about it, trying to have a go, but unable to make the move stick. But he's got a lot of pace, of course, winning race 1 yesterday. Will Howarth, so we know that bike is fast. We know what he can do on that bigger bike, but it's just, can he get past? Can he make that move stick on Darren Anderson? He's looking to the inside once again on the dirty side of the track, unable to go. Darren Anderson, of course, excellent at defending as he just puts his bike in all the right places, coming around the final corner, but still a long way to go in this Moto Team Race 2. But while they're fighting, Warren GUANTARIO behind them, surely thinking you can waste each other's time. It's going to give me an opportunity to catch up and maybe I can challenge for the lead.
Definitely. I think Will is more of when than if. So I think will eventually get past Darren. Darren is looking over his shoulder a lot, so he definitely knows he's there.
Yeah, he definitely does. Heading through the fast back section and then onto that back stretch, getting some massive speeds down there on these Moto Team bikes. And there is Darren tucking into the slipstream, going past some lap traffic, I believe. That might be, I'm not entirely sure, I think that might have been Vince Bailey there on the 369 bike as they now head back onto the front straight. Still Darren Anderson leading the way. Ignore your timing screen on the left hand side. Is very much Darren Anderson on that 133. It says he's in 12. He's definitely leading with Will Howarth following in P96 as they're heading now round through the middle section part of the track through the hairpin. And GUANTARIO again sticking with that leading pair, just kind of sticking with them, maintaining his pace for the time being.
He's doing a really good job because you think those 2 bikes ahead of him are open bikes and he's only on a standard bike, so
yeah, exactly.
He must be making it up in the corners a hell of a lot.
Yeah, exactly. There goes Darren Anderson up the inside. Will Howarth even on Darren Anderson, unable to make the move. Anderson shuts the door, so Howarth has to maintain in second place. But as you mentioned, Jay, of course, 2 different classes. You've got the overall kind of results which we're seeing at the moment. You've got Anderson, Howarth, GUANTARIO. But if we're talking classes, leading the open class, it's Anderson, Howarth, and then Keith Bolton in P3. He's currently running P4. And then in the standing class, it's GUANTARIO leading with Jack Andrews second and Sean in your bike in P3.
So we're on the podium again.
Yeah, so at least making places back up. Again, although we do talk about the overall standings, it's very much the class standings that matters for the championship, for for the overall kind of results. So it's always good to talk about the overall, but do keep in mind the different classes that we do have there in the MotoTeam Championship. 6 laps to go this time by. Still Darren Anderson leading from Will Howarth. GUANTARIO again behind, just looking, waiting, sticking with that leading 3. He's just set a fastest lap of the race of 45.468. The lap record rather of 43.083 set by Will Howarth, so a few seconds off the lap record just yet.
It's slightly, because Will's old bike would have been on 12-inch wheels, so it would have been a lot easier back then. So with the new rules, you could almost make new lap records now. You could almost, with the new rule changes.
Well, maybe slowing the bikes down leads to better racing.
Bigger wheels, it's harder to turn on the bigger wheels. So they're good lap times, what they're doing. It'd be a shame we can't see what Darren's lap time's doing.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he's setting some good lap times nonetheless.
He's just pulled away a little bit now, Darren. Just got about half a second on the boys now.
Yeah, gap extending just a little bit. I'm not entirely.
They just got a back marker in the wrong place, these two.
Yeah, that's not ideal. Of course, catching back markers, that's one thing you do have to negotiate in motorcycle racing. Very, very difficult to get past them.
You just have to work. You just have to kind of line yourself up and not rush up to them, really.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Jay, of course, you race in a multitude of series here at FAB. I mean, it's it must be very difficult when you're fighting for position. You're hard at work, and then suddenly you come up a slower bike. You just have to get around, and suddenly you can lose a whole load of time.
This weekend, every single one has fell nicely for me, so I can't complain.
Well, fingers crossed, of course. Fingers crossed. But it's still Darren Anderson leading the race on track. Will Howarth in second with Warren GUANTARIO as he's still maintaining that lead. A few fights further back down the field as well for position.
Jason Pugh on Keith Bolton's bike. So battling for open for the final place on the open podium.
Yeah, exactly. So that's fighting for P3 overall, also or P4 overall, fighting for P3 in class as he's coming through. 4 laps left remaining. The final race 2 of the day here at round 1 of the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championships as we're going through. And we're just going through. There is the overall leader of Darren Anderson.
Will looking up the inside again.
He's got a lot of pace on the bike again. We know that he won yesterday. Of course, Darren did have that fall, but he's still pushing hard. Is Will Howarth?
Darren Anderson's back on the timing now. He's back in first.
So officially back in first now after leading half the race, and we not really know where he is, but he's back, and there is Will again having a look to the inside. I mean, he's been having lots of looks, but he's not been making lots of moves. He's starting to run out of time. If he wants to win this race, he does need to pull the trigger, pull the pin, and give it a go up the inside. We know he's got the pace. He's been having so many looks. He's just been looking this way and that way, and there he is drawing alongside Darren Anderson. There we go, surely breaking into the final corner. Who's going to get in front? No, it's still Darren Anderson leading this race, closing the door.
Markers now, really in bad places.
Yeah, that's not going to be great.
And that's helped. That's helped Darren a lot, that has.
That's massively helped Darren Anderson. That's going to have cost Will Howarth a lot of time coming through the first. And again,
get another one now.
Just dreadfully placed back markers. Rubbish luck for Will Howarth, but that is again how back markers work. It's just about luck, unfortunately. You've just got to catch them in the right place.
And Will got both of them in both chicanes.
Exactly. Darren Anderson got lucky, got them before the chicanes. Will just got both of them in the chicanes. We're on the penultimate lap of the race here, so I don't know what the gap's going to be as they come to the line, but visually you can see it's much, much bigger, and that very may well be Darren Anderson's with a huge sigh of relief beneath his helmet.
He's going to have to be on lap record pace now, Will, to catch him up. I just don't think he's going to do it now.
Well, we'll have to wait and see anyway. Anything can happen as we go on to the final lap of the race. The yellow flag with the black cross indicates one more tour of the circuit for the leaders. Darren Anderson with a very comfortable lead is up to a second now. So Will Howarth, unless Darren Anderson makes a mistake, looks like he is going to have to settle for second. Hugely unlucky there.
That's our race leader of the standard class.
That is race leader of the standard class. That's GUANTARIO going down. Having problems getting the bike going again as well. So he's going to lose third place overall to Keith Bolton, I think. And, Jack Andrews.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's big, that is.
That's gone down, and it's not getting restarted, is it? But there is your race leader in the open and overall. Darren Anderson rounding the final corner. Little bit of lap traffic, but it doesn't matter. He's going to take in the win. But there's Will Howarth. There's Will Howarth on the inside. Who is the race winner? Darren Anderson.
I think he got it just
By 400ths of a second.
What a last lap by Will to pull that gap in.
Will Howarth at the 45.2, a massive final lap there from Will Howarth. Hugely huge final lap. Of course, Darren Anderson looks like he came across some traffic, but a huge final effort from Will Howarth. But 400ths of a second at the line. That is ridiculously close.
I thought Darren had done it, but Will, that last lap must have been perfect.
Yeah, that must have been a pretty special lap. That must have been absolutely phenomenal with the fastest lap of the race there. 400ths is the winning margin with Darren Anderson by millimetres pips Will Howarth at the line for the race win. Keith Bolton comes home in third. You're 1, 2, 3 all in the open class. Fourth place also in the open class, the number 12.
Jack Andrews getting the win in the open in the standard class.
Yeah, so Phil MAPPLEBECK is fourth and Jack Andrews winning in the standard class. He's followed by Warren GUANTARIO, who dropped down to 6th overall but second in the standard class. And there's Lynton the MEOLA in P7 in the open, and then your Sean managed to get P3
not too bad.
Not too bad on your bike in P8, but you'll be in race 3. So
yeah, I'll be out there in race 3. I'll get some of those points back.
Yeah, exactly. Fighting for that win, of course. And it's Scott Jewett and Iona Glover with a great result, P10 overall. They're both in the standard class as well.
Darren Anderson on the 133 bike, who of course had a superb race 2. Well, in race 1 he crashed out, which he was a bit disappointed with, but he redeemed himself this morning. As we have a quick look at the grid with Darren Anderson, as I said, starting in pole position, with Warren GUANTARIO starting second next to him. Will Howarth in third, with Keith Bolton in fourth, Ian Jackson fifth, Jamie King sixth, Jack Andrews seventh, Phil MAPPLEBECK in 8th, Scott Jewett in 9th, Lynton DiMello 10th, Phillip JOYCE in 11th, Ryan Button 12th, Vince Bailey 13th, Charlie Ems 14th, Elliot Newton 15th, Ian Baker 16th, and in the final row, Madison, Martlew and Iona Glover running off the grid.
There you go, that is the grid for the final race of the day. The season, as I said a moment ago. I do apologise. It's been a long weekend for everybody here at FAB. Yeah, it's nice as the sun has now gone away, but the looks of things, the temperature starts to drop, the cloud cover comes over. Be a nice way to end it with a nice little MotoTeam race. Of course, MotoTeam, very, very exciting class in itself. Of course, you've got the 2 classes within a MotoTeam. You've got the open class, which is basically anything goes, and you've got the standard class, which is essentially production motorcycles, which you've slapped a number on, rocked up with, you can go. Again, if you're interested at home, if you want to get involved in FAB-Racing, this is probably the class to get started in. If you're sitting at home, you're thinking of starting your budding grassroots motorcycle career, head to FAB-Racing, have a look at the MotoTeam regulations and the general regulations and how to enter, because MotoTeam, you can literally bring your production bike, slap a number on it, and do some very, very cheap racing.
Yeah, it's a class that's made for the older riders, obviously not for the younger riders out there, but it's a cheap class for people to race. It's a nice way it's close racing, 2 classes, and yeah, it's always a great race here.
Well, here we go as we wait for the lights. The final one of the day and of the weekend. The first round here of the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championship. And we wait for the lights for the MotoTeam class. The riders sitting patiently on the grid. There is Jamie King on the right-hand side of the screen. There goes the hand signal. For the final time this weekend, it's lights on, lights off. We're underway in MotoTeam. It's a great start from Will Howarth away from third on the grid. He slides up into second. Behind him as well, we've got Warren GUANTARIO. Didn't quite get away, but it's Darren Anderson that leads. But Will Howarth trying to squeeze around the outside, and Will Howarth into the lead of the race with a great start, like an absolute rocket ship. He is just absolutely bolted from third on the grid, moves up into the lead about halfway around the lap. Great stuff there from Will Howarth. It's Darren Anderson following in P2, Warren GUANTARIO following in P3 as well. Keith Bolton managing to hold on to P4 with Jay King in P5. So yeah, wow, what a start there from Will Howarth. He is shot into the lead of the race.
Yeah, he certainly has, but Darren Anderson just behind on the 133 bike, starting obviously in pole position, and he will want to replicate that into a race win as we go to end the first lap with Darren Anderson appearing to have the same issue as last time out, with a slight transponder issue, with Will Howarth leading the way with a 48 flat.
Yeah, exactly. So Will Howarth, 48 dead. That is a great lap time to be starting off with, this front three still going strong. Of course, Darren Anderson had a tumble in race 1, but came back to did he win race 2? No, it was Darren it was Darren Anderson who won race 2, wasn't it? So Darren Anderson won race 2 at the death. That's right. Yeah, it was at the death, very, very close between the pair of them. And then, after now he's looking to try and win race 3, but Will Howarth trying to make it 2 from this weekend. Darren Anderson poking a wheel up the inside as they come into the final corner, but he's not able to convert it into an overtake down the main straight. Will Howarth maintains the lead, 10 laps to go here. Warren GUANTARIO as well, maybe having a look on Darren Anderson. Again, you've got to consider Darren Anderson in his position. He's got to attack, he's got to defend. If he goes for an overtake and gets it wrong, he leaves the door wide open and he could actually be losing position.
Yeah, it certainly does. And if Will Howarth and Darren Anderson fight, Warren GUANTARIO, as you just said, will be there ready to pounce. Last lap, he set the fastest lap of the race. He clearly has pace, and as you can see, he's just right behind these 2 riders.
Yeah, exactly. There is Will Howarth just sitting pretty in the lead. Apparently Warren GUANTARIO set the fastest lap of the race last time, a 46.253. So if these 2 at the front keep fighting, we could be seeing maybe a new leader, who knows. And at that time, it was Will Howarth now, 45.5. So the lap time's getting faster and faster as we go along. Behind them, Bolton managing to hold off Jamie King. There we go, Darren Anderson down the outside through the chicane, but Will Howarth pokes a wheel up the inside, but no, he's still Darren Anderson. So Darren Anderson keeps the lead and retakes what was, in his eyes, rightfully his from the pole position. And Will Howarth drops down to 2nd. GUANTARIO behind as well. We'll be watching this with vague interest, because obviously he's racing with them at the same time, but he'll be hoping these 2 keep fighting, maybe even have a touch, and off they go, and he can inherit a very easy lead without having to do any overtaking.
Yeah, Warren GUANTARIO is, although he's in 3rd overall, he is leading his class in the MotoTeam standard class. So he's already winning, but he wants that overall win. The overall win is what everyone wants in this race, with Darren Anderson still leading the way with just 8 laps to go. Will Howarth will not let us go easily. Will Howarth is just having a look up the inside, and that's not going to work. Darren Anderson shuts the door.
I mean, it is interesting, because obviously on paper the overall win doesn't matter. It's all about the class. So right now the open podium is Darren Anderson, Will Howarth, and then you have to go to Keith Bolton for P3. But the standard podium, you've got Warren GUANTARIO on the top step, then Jamie King and Jack Andrews in P3, 4 and 5 overall. On paper, it's the classes that really matter, as you do see there. That's Keith Bolton and Jamie King fighting each other. Jay King maybe having a look to the inside, but decides against it. However, in practice, when you're on the racetrack, it's all about that overall position. These riders, they just want to race each other. They're there for fun, obviously, but they just want to race each other. They want the overall win, because that's what matters to them.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, although it's 2 classes, they're still pretty balanced. That even if you're on a standard bike, you can still compete with these open bikes. As one thing we love at FAB-Racing is that it's usually the ride that makes a difference, and not just who has the best bike.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Fab is, it's all of the Minimoto and stuff. That's all spec series. It's all apart from the engines, the bikes are all the same, very heavily technically regulated. You've got to use this restricted, that restricted, this part, that part. This is the only real series where you, along with the pit bikes, where you kind of get, and the extremes, I suppose, where you only really get this freedom between the bikes. And this is even more so because you've essentially got 2 classes shoved into one. So this is, in terms of bikes, the most diverse grid that we have at FAB. Looks like GUANTARIO's dropped away a little bit from Darren, or from Will Howarth, even, apologies. So he's lost a bit of time there on that last lap. Will Howarth still pushing very hard. Yeah, it is, in terms of bikes, the most diverse group that we have here at FAB, so it's very interesting to watch, just because of the sheer magnitude of bikes. I mean, we've got like a supermoto style bike, fending off from a GP style bike at the moment. So, where else would you get that?
Exactly, nowhere else. That's where Ross. And as we see, with just 6 laps to go in this race, it looks like Warren GUANTARIO has slightly dropped back from these 2 front runners as we wait for them just to cross the line, with Will Howarth leading the way with a 45.1 that time round, while Warren GUANTARIO is 9/10 off that. So it looks like Warren GUANTARIO is going to need a miracle to be able to come back from this with just 5 laps to go. Well,
we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know if he's that sudden drop of a pace is maybe just protecting the bike and himself, or maybe he's having problems, who really knows. But it's Will Howarth back into the overall lead, and squeezing past some lap traffic as well. That's oh no, Darren Anderson, and that is our battle for the lead. That's a real shame. Darren Anderson there getting held up by the lap traffic And, well, wave goodbye to our battle for the lead with 5 laps to go. That's a massive, massive shame. But as we've been saying all day, Lydd is not the best circuit for getting through lap traffic. Very, very tight. And, well, very, very fast as well. And, yeah, if you catch it in the wrong place, you can lose a lot of time. And that's what Darren Anderson's done there. A big shame for him. Will Howarth, though, probably breathing easy. He just now has to cruise home. Yeah, he does. I mean, he just caught lap traffic at the wrong time there. There was nothing he could have done. The lap traffic stuck on the same line. He did nothing wrong. But it's just one of those things. That is a part of racing. Yeah, it is, unfortunately. You know, that's just, you know, it's lap traffic. They just show up. And, you know, racing is, you know, possibly one of the most luck-based sports on the planet. It's a sport that's, you know, it's the most political sport on the planet. It's, you know, the sport with the most money in the planet involved. It's also one of the most luck-based sports on the planet. When you get stuff like that, it is just sheer luck when you come across the back markers. You know, you've just got to get them at the right time, and it can make or break your race. As we've seen there, Darren Anderson's race going absolutely out the window as a result of just some back markers being caught in the wrong place. Here we see the battle for 4th overall. Keith Bolton versus Jamie King. Jamie King, of course, that bike bearing the number 1, it won the championship last year. Well, not that specific bike, because it was actually a pit bike style bike he was on last year. There was the small 14-inch wheels bikes. They are no longer allowed in the MotoTeam bikes. It was on a different bike to what he was on last year, along with many other riders, but still bearing that number 1. Of course, that makes him a 4-time FAB champion, including his 3 pit bike championships, which he's won across the years that he's been around. And you know, Jamie, a very, very talented rider, and one that we're you know, very used to seeing, you know, around the top end of the grid as we're seeing here today. Keith Bolton, though, keeping him at bay, just keeping that pace slightly up. It's about just under half a second is the lap between them. As that point, it's actually just under a second on the last lap, so I wonder if Jay maybe made a mistake, but it's been a good ride from both of them so far. Keith Bolton currently 3rd in the open class, Jamie King coming 2nd in the standard class. Yep, that's right. Will Howarth just 3.6 seconds now. All he needs to do is get this home. He just needs to stay at it. 2 laps to go in this race. He just needs to stay consistent and not let Darren Anderson catch up at all. But as we see going into the last lap now, he will hit some lap traffic, but I do not think it'll cause too much bother. As we see Warren GUANTARIO right on the back of Darren Anderson as we wait to see what's going to happen there on the last lap of this race, as we see Will Howarth getting past lap traffic nicely with Darren Anderson still in front of Warren GUANTARIO, and Jamie King down there in 5th place. It was great hearing his insight in race 1 while talking to Ross. As we see going down into the sweepers, Darren Anderson still in 2nd place from Warren GUANTARIO. Just nothing separating them, as you see Will Howarth with more back markers in front of them heading to the final corner of the final lap of the final race of this weekend, as we see getting held up by back markers, but it does not matter. He's won the race, takes the checkered flag. He'll be absolutely delighted with that victory, as we see Darren Anderson coming across the line 2nd, with Warren GUANTARIO not be able to make a move on him in 3rd. Well, there you go. Will Howarth takes the victory and closes our weekend of racing here at FAB-Racing with a very nice ride. A shame that we had our lead battle snatched away from us with the back markers, but you know, Darren Anderson and Warren GUANTARIO had a bit of a ding-dong there at the end. Only 0.2 of a second separating Warren GUANTARIO from Darren Anderson, but it was 2.2 seconds separating Will Howarth from Darren Anderson. He takes the overall victory and also the open victory, with Darren Anderson and Keith Bolton making up that podium. Warren GUANTARIO, Jay King and Jack Andrews make up the standard podium, but the overall standing is Will Howarth from Darren Anderson. Warren GUANTARIO 3rd, Keith Bolton 4th with Jay King 5th, Jack Andrews is 6th, Phil MAPPLEBECK is 7th, Lynton MEOLA is 8th, Scott JEWITT is 9th, Vince Bailey rounds up the top 10. And that, I'm afraid, is it.
FAB-Racing.